Robin Flynn filling in for Aaron just for today. Aaron's off all week, though. Trudy Mason is in for the rest of the week. Now it's time to check in with Dr. Joe Schwarz, host of The Dr. Joe Show, Sundays at 3 p.m. right here on CJAD 800. He's also the director of the McGill Office for Science and Society. Good afternoon, Dr. Joe. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Hey, Robin. Nice to hear you again.
Now, I have very controversial opinions on maple syrup because everybody is telling me that sugar is the devil, that white processed sugar is like the worst thing you can be putting in your body. But I'm a big baker, Dr. Joe. I do a lot of, banana bread and muffins and things like that. And I always just use regular sugar because that's what I've always used. But everybody's telling me, no, you got to use maple syrup instead. It's so much better for you. Is it? Are there any actual health properties associated with maple syrup?
No, there really aren't. There really aren't. Maple syrup is essentially sugar. Now, it does have small doses of vitamins and minerals, but in the context of the overall diet, it really is insignificant. Now, they publish a lot of stuff. I can tell you this in the scientific literature about maple syrup. Almost all of it funded by the maple syrup industry, which is, understandable. So they'll do various kind of analysis, and they will dig up that it contains antioxidants, specifically a class of antioxidants called polyphenols, and they make a big deal out of this. First thing to point out is this whole business about antioxidants is much, much more murky than people think. These are not any kind of miraculous ingredients in food. We do know that people who eat lots of fruits and vegetables are better off. I mean, there's no question about that. Vegetarian diets and vegan diets are certainly healthy diets. We don't know exactly why that is the case. Now, it is true that all these foods contain these compounds we call polyphenols. And in the laboratory, you can show that they have antioxidant properties, which is kind of interesting because whenever we breathe oxygen, which of course we have to do, I mean, there's no life without oxygen, there's sort of friendly fire. And some of the oxygen gets converted to what we call free radicals, and those can be damaging, and antioxidants mop those up, at least in the Petri dish in the laboratory. But the human body is not a large Petri dish. So it's very difficult, to extrapolate from there. The truth is, we don't really know what it is in the fruits and vegetables that is so healthy because there's so many different components in there. You bite into an apple, it has over 300 different compounds. We don't really know which are the beneficial ones. So when you do the analysis of maple syrup, yes, you do find small amounts of antioxidants. But, how much maple syrup are you going to put on your pancake? You maybe put 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. Well, the amount of antioxidants in there is inconsequential in context of an overall diet. But the sugar content is not inconsequential. As I said, the maple syrup is essentially sugar. 12 grams of sugar in a tablespoon of maple syrup. Now, 12 grams maybe doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is, because the amount of sugar that we should be eating a day is roughly 40 grams. So with 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, you're talking about 1/4 of your daily intake of sugar. Now, sugar is sugar. We should be monitoring how much we eat. So what I say to people, if you like maple syrup, by all means, put that on your pancake. Why? Because you like it, not because you think it is healthier for you. And there's nothing wrong with eating something just because you like it. As I so often say, not every drop that you drink and every morsel that you eat of food do you have to evaluate in terms of, is it good for me or is it not? You have to evaluate your overall diet. And, yes, I'm sure if you want to put that maple syrup on your pancake, it's fine. It fits into an overall diet. But don't think that you're going to reap any health benefits from that. But if
Dr.
you like
Joe,
to
it reminds
sugar,
me.
do it.
It reminds me when I talk to my daughter, because we don't have like good foods or bad foods because she's little, and I don't want her to have disordered eating habits and stuff. So we usually call them brain foods and heart foods, feel foods that make you feel good inside, and foods that give you energy and stuff like that. That's usually how we differentiate them with her. And I feel like regular people have been so, I don't know, ruined by the wellness industry that they're afraid of anything that has chemicals you can't pronounce, but everything is made of chemicals, right? You know that better than most.
That's right. And sometimes people just try to overanalyze everything that they eat, and instead of looking at everything that they eat as one whole picture, instead of looking at individual foods. Now, I tell you what also makes me think of this. With Aaron for the last couple of weeks, we talked about RFK, Robert Kennedy, and the evil that he's going to bring to healthcare. But anyway, there's a picture is floating around on the internet where he and Trump's son
Yes.
and Elon Musk are on an airplane. Did you see this picture?
I did.
Yeah, where they're eating McDonald's and drinking Coke and whatever with Kennedy, who of course is against all kinds of processed foods, and there he is eating it. And of course, this has generated a tremendous amount of stuff on the internet, making fun of him and calling him a hypocrite and everything. Now, I can tell you, I do not like Robert Kennedy's policies. I think he's totally unscientific. I don't think he knows what he's talking about, except in a few areas, such as his views on processed foods. Yes, we know that we shouldn't be eating that, but just because he was caught in this picture once eating McDonald's and sipping Coke doesn't mean that he does this all the time. I really don't think he does. I think that the guy really does exercise, which is a good thing. I think he really does watch his diet. I think he got caught up in this, Trump business on the airplane, and Trump, of course, loves all this fast foods. And I think for Trump, it's a problem. I think he eats too much of that. And I think Kennedy thinks he eats too much of that. And I guess Kennedy was goaded into sampling that McDonald's, here. Yeah. So even though I don't like the man for sure, I'm not willing to castigate him for having had a picture taken with some McDonald's food in front of him, because I know that that's not his usual diet. So he's stupid about many different things. But I think saying that you shouldn't eat processed foods, that's a good thing. And just because he was somehow caught in that picture in Trump's company eating a hamburger does not mean that he's a big hypocrite, and that's what he does all the time. I don't think he does that all the time. I think that this was very unusual, and everyone once in a while will eat something that they know they shouldn't have eaten, right?
Yep. That's what I was going to say, Dr. Joe. You know that processed foods aren't good for you, but I'm sure you have French fries once in a while, right?
I do, but only from good places,
Of course. If you're going to have French fries, make them good.
Make them good, and don't make them frozen. If they're made from fresh potatoes and fried fresh, like you get at the Orange Julep or at La Fleur's or those places, yeah, once in a while it's fine. But the frozen stuff, not worth eating.
No, disgusting. Dr. Joe Schwarz, host of the Dr. Joe Show. Check him out Sundays at 3 p.m. right here on CJAD 800. Thanks so much, Dr. Joe. Have a great week.
Thanks, Robin.